And a lot of wealth in India is actually moving from traditional products to a lot of these new products. So that is a change which is happening on the product side. Yeah,
thank you. In fact, you can have a good portfolio of various products. Instead of having just one product, you can reduce your risk and at the same time maximize your return. So risk return combination can really be, you can have a very good combination of risk and return with the help of the kind of portfolios or the products that Mr. Pradeep has talked about. Mr. Abhishek probably would like to talk about some innovative products which can be used by startups. So can you talk about some, or maybe some by other investors also? Can you talk about something about startups and others?
Sure. Thank you, Professor. It's good to be back at the campus we started with. So good to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. So I think and I'll cover the startups part, but my 2 cents on innovation is all about access. So whether you provide access to products to retail investors, whether you provide access to information which is not easily available to retail investors, or whether you provide access to startups and corporates to raise large amount of capital. And I think there is great degree of work happening across the 3 segments, both by the regulators, by the industry, by fintechs, all players in the ecosystem. And it provides a lot of opportunities which were simply not there even 5 years back, not even going back to 2 decades, 3 decades. Particularly, I think access to products is being solved by getting simplified onboarding procedures. For example, you want to open a Demat account today, sitting around a tier 4 city, you can just open it in 5 minutes at Zerodha or any other digital brokerage firms, which was not possible 7-8 years back or even 10 years back, because you have to visit a branch, provide a physical KYC copy and get onboarded. Access to information, one example is that today as retail investors, even if you're holding 1 share in a company, you can vote in their AGMs digitally. You need not go to their head office and vote for it. So your vote counts, right? So in a way, you have a voice if you're a true shareholder. And access to products, some of them, Pradeep have already listed a couple of them. I'll probably talk about few from a startup angle because I represent the startup community. I think for startups, a lot of the early stage capital is raised offline because currently the IPO market or the capital markets, while there have been a lot of innovations, it has allowed some of the startups, late stage startups to come and raise capital. But still the early stage, if you have to raise, couple of millions of dollars, is largely offline. So there are convertible notes most startups prefer to start with. These are debt which gets converted into equity after a couple of quarters or couple of years. That's the most preferred way to raise equity at an early stage. And then there are private equity and VC firms which deploy capital for early stage growth. Now there are a lot of opportunities which players like or platforms like Grip, Smallcase, they are bringing to retail investors to participate in startup equity. So 10-15 years back, startup investing was a very closed door thing. Only probably 15-20 large VCs or angel investors used to circulate deal amongst themselves. Now, if you want to invest in a startup, the product route has been very simplified. You can just sign a convertible debt. And B, there are so many platforms like Tyke, etc., which disseminate that information that you are raising capital and the group of people can come in and invest in that startup. So I think a great deal of innovation is happening, not just for startups, but even for larger infrastructure projects. Yeah, and I look forward to more such innovations going ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek. I hope that many of you would be looking for some startup kind of projects. At LBSIM, we have entered into an agreement with IIM Lucknow incubation center. They would be helping us in setting up incubation center here. I think that's a good news for all of you. And therefore, probably Mr. Abhishek would be would help us at that time in case some of you are able to have good projects to raise funds, from the market. Now I'm coming to Mr. Arora. Long experience across sectors, and so Mr. Vikas, in fact, what you would like to say about some innovative products, some innovative processes? Maybe you can talk from some MSEME's point of view.
Thank you, Dr. Bansal. First of all, I know it could be very excruciating, painful to sit after post-lunch session and I can correlate to with you guys. Back in my MBA days, my professor used to get us from the neck and say, "Chalo attend karo, वरना panelists क्या सोचेंगे?" So I can feel your pain, guys. I was there. I can feel your pain. But all I can tell you is, I have not done any research, any googling to figure out कि मुझे आज बोलना क्या है. I'll be speaking straight quotes also. So all these are instruments, very exciting instruments. Some of you, I'm sure, investing in stock market. I'm sure most of you should, because my way of learning about any company is I take a one equity share. And the best part is, I'll be sharing this secret with you. They send you the balance sheet, and if you can send it, आपने वो ₹1 का शेयर ले लिया, let's say एक penny stock उठा लिया, आप उसकी रद्दी बेचोगे तो आप ज़्यादा recover कर लोगे. So, and a lot of people do that, by the way. I'm not trying to tell you, but interesting is when you start investing, you start learning. When you start learning, your perspective becomes much more deeper about the capital market. You start figuring out ये क्यों किया, ये कैसे किया, ये और क्या कर रहा है, और आसपास क्या हो रहा है. Second part to it is technology. I think everyone is talking about how technology is transitioning. My friend Abhishek talked about Access. I think he talked about a company which can open DMAT, like all the DMATs can be opened in no time. Not just Access, I'll just take further on to it. The information, Dr. Bansal talked about information asymmetry. जो आपको पता है वो मुझे So technology plays a very role in how newer products will be there and will become successful and scalable. Like I talk about blockchain. If I'm sure some of you would have heard about blockchain, and typically हम जब blockchain की बात करते हैं तो we think about cryptos. No, crypto is just one of the application of blockchain technology. Blockchain has been promoted by Indian government also in India. Blockchain is a technology, distributed ledger technology. Simple technology है, that technology everybody has access to same information at same point in time. आपको और मुझे सबको same information पता होना चाहिए. This is information asymmetry. That means अगर मैं यही replicate कर दूं capital market में, तो that means if I'm investor, you and I have the same information at the same time, right? That's what we all seek. Information clarity, information transparency, right? How it can improve the efficiency in the when people go and raise capital in the capital market, how improve the efficiency? Like my friend talked about opening a DMAT. I'm sure you would have heard about NSE scam. I'm sure anybody, if you can raise your hands, National Stock Exchange scam. Okay, you have only one. I'm sure your professor would have taught you about NSE scam. क्या हुआ? Your finance professor would have told you about. It's okay. So NSE scam is nothing but the high frequency traders bringing their servers close to the NSE server so that they have information, they can get the information before everybody else, and then they can start trading onto it, like get the rates early, get the uploads on the NSE platform early, so that you can trade before anybody else can do. And these are microsecond traders, right? These are traders happening in no time at all. So, but technology can be misused also. That's what I'm trying to say. Technology is good, but technology can be misused also. So all I'm trying to say is technology is transitioning. There are a lot of technology we can talk about. APIs, I'm sure you would have heard of, application programming interface. You would have heard of machine learning. You would have heard of NLP, which is natural language, program. And then you would have heard of NLI, NLU. Sorry, I'm stealing a thunder. You are a techie person, but still, I would like to talk about these because I learned many of these languages myself. They just making access to capital market, making it much more transparent. And I'm telling you, the best is our regulator, SEBI, RBI. They are, and I'm sure they are the most respected regulators across the globe. In fact, SEBI commands that positioning across the globe, being the most respected and updated regulator. That they ensure that there is a larger participants in the capital markets from the people and as well as for the corporates who are trying to raise debt. They're making it much more deeper, much more, where the corporates are actually trading, where their instruments have volumes for people to come and invest into, and they're using themselves promoting technology. That's why instead of completely, banning the blockchain, they are only, in fact, RBI published a very fantastic white paper on blockchain, sir. I'll share with you, probably you can share with your team, with your students also. You should go through it. they want this technology to grow, prosper, because it brings that depth in the markets. It brings the information clarity in the market. So this is what I want to share my thoughts on how the capital market innovation and the role of tech can really make things better and experiential also.
Thank you so much. I hope that with this kind of insight, about blockchain and technology, a combination of technology and these products, innovations, probably we have a better idea about the linkage between these financial products and the technology. We have a very, rare, Mr. Kanwar has got a very rare combination, he's a CA and then working with Oracle and helping in, using technology to help out marketing processes. So I would request Mr. Kanwar to talk about, how we handled, when there was, for example, in Tokyo market. So there are 3 markets in the world. We have New York, Tokyo, and London. So how that kind of, that pressure of transactions and, the security, cyber security, and then like he was talking about LIC, around 5,000 plus transactions in a second, and server did not crash. So how all these kind of things are done, how these things are handled by, by Oracle, or maybe he can share some more experiences about linkages, maybe some kind of products which can be there, some processes which can be talked about, and maybe some of the, how technology can be used to streamline working of capital market. Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Professor sir. Before I go to the question, let me just, there are too many stiff faces in the room here. So who, let me just ask you an open question, forwards and options. How many of you think, how old is this concept, forwards and options? And there is no wrong answer here. Anyone, just shout. 10 years? I heard, louder. And then you can go back and look at it. Tulip bulb in 1635 was traded at 4,000 guilders when an average person used to earn 300 guilders in a year. So, there can be bubbles, there can be hypes, there can be innovation. At times, we are so self-centered, and I'm just being self-critical. We are self-centered. We believe we have seen the innovation. Each one of us has a right to live in that righteousness, that I did it, I have seen the innovation, what I have done no one else can do, what my generation has done no one can do, what India has done no one can do. Right? And the world practically stops here, because take it or not, the information that you get outside of India today is slightly different from what you get inside India now. Let's just get to, the question now. The question is technology and capital markets and innovation. Well, it's a never-ending game. It was as if yesterday that we used to pick up paper forms to apply for stocks from the footpath. And there used to be paper application forms mailed to your home. So if you are a shareholder in like 3 companies, your mailbox almost every day will be filled with, application forms. So much of paper, so much of things. There used to be how many stock exchanges in India? Anyone knows? Early 90s? Anyone knows that there was a Ludhiana stock exchange? Besides Delhi being separate, Kolkata being separate? There was. NSE brought things at platform. Today, we take a lot of pride in where we are, and we should. Why not? But are we there? Is this the end? Not really. What is our market capitalization today? About 3 trillion something, right? 3 dot some trillion. What is the Chinese capital market capitalization today? 11 plus trillion US dollars. Okay. Now, so what you are looking at today, if you are starting out today in your careers, today, right? If you are starting out a year later, the things can change further. You are entering an age where a typical hedge fund with engineers sitting in a Singapore room could be trading globally 24/7 and trading through algorithms in less than a microsecond and gaining millions of dollars on just the arbitrage opportunities between differences in stock prices at Singapore, London, so on, New York and so on. And the same thing can happen even in India, arbitrage opportunities. There are now funds which say that arbitrage funds, right? Those arbitrage funds are capitalizing on those differential abilities and they're all software driven. So it's software. So what will you do there? You are working hard to get an MBA. What are you going to do? We'll come to that later. Let's keep on a bit on more on technology. LIC issue which Professor Benson was talking about, it is a landmark issue in India's stock market history. Landmark from many standards. But one of the things which it achieved was that before LIC issue came into public domain, the maximum number of transactions handled per second was for a public issue called NICA. NICA was 600 transactions per second. When LIC issue opened, NSE was anticipating that transaction volume will go up. And they had provisioned for somewhere around 7,500 transactions per second. Look at the scaling up. It touched about 6,000 transactions per second at its peak. Nothing crashed. Everything worked properly. The entire computing was not inside NSE. It was in a cloud data center hosted by, in this case, my employer, but yes, there are others also who can do that. 6,000 transactions per second, transactions being processed, maybe in the same city, but you try driving from NSE to that location, you will have a tough time. But data moves faster. So that's one version of technology. Now so you start looking at innovations from a capital market perspective. And if you start wearing your corporate hat, I'm sure some of you are going to have your own startups, you will run your own business, and hence what my fellow speakers have already said, it will be very, very useful to you. But if you are going to work for a corporate, how do you raise capital for a corporate? Very efficiently. There is a step back there. One is capital market. Second is how do you efficiently manage your capital? You can't have your drawers full of cash and then you will say, okay, I'll keep raising capital because it's cheap. That's inefficient. So you have to look at capital market raising options at the same time managing what you have very efficiently. And that's very important. Today, the employer where I work for, we manage treasury across multiple countries based out of India. We have 37,000 plus employees in India. Software exports out of India. We have a listed entity in India. It's listed on BSE. Besides all of that, how many people do you think will be managing treasury? Any guesses? Any guesses? If you are still listening. Any guess is wrong because there is only one person managing treasury for multiple countries based out of India. That's the power of technology, guys. It is happening. It is not going to happen. It is happening. It's there. The AI ML that you talk about, what you read about, is functional. It is there. So, besides being the capital market and how you raise funds, there are many things that we can talk about. How do international corporations raise funds? Go read about it. Microsoft has recently made an acquisition which is some $59 billion, the gaming company. Oracle acquired a company for $28 billion. This happened in the last 1 year. How do you raise $28 billion? Read about it. There are learnings. How many companies in India can raise funds of that magnitude just like that? So we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to scale. I think the opportunity is immense. The good news is that you are entering a job market, or you will enter a job market soon, which is in many ways a platform which you can use to help India grow much faster. And that That is what I will wish you for. Technology is there. How do you use your brains to do something different with that technology is what is important. Technology tools are there. If you are looking for something which is very routine, I will go to office at 9 a.m., return at 6 p.m., say hello, hi, have lunch and so on and so forth. All the best to you. I'll hand it back to Professor Bansal.
Thank you. In fact, I was talking to Mr. Kanwar during lunch that what kind of skill set is required by that person, to operate that entire operation. And that skill set that he mentioned, that we have been emphasizing in the class almost all the times, that try to develop your analytical skills. Because lot of analytical skills would be required that person who is handling this entire treasury. Instead of having, I can overheard rather that the lowest number was coming out to be 10 probably. There's somebody uttered 10 people must be there, but actually it is 1. So what kind of skill set is required? This is what we have been talking about most of the times in the classes, that try to develop your analytical skills. It's really going to help you out. And unless we have analytical skills, mere theoretical knowledge is not going to help you at all. So we are now going to Mr. Khurana. NHAI is doing wonders. Mr. Gadkari, is almost always in limelight for developing our highways. And the most interesting thing is, the way they are raising finance. Asset monetization. Many assets are built and then monetized. Many assets are monetized before they are even built. So I think Mr. Khurana is the most right person to talk about the initiatives or the method which is used by National Highway Authority of India to raise funds. Because if you look at the budgets, if you go to NHAI website, you would find some 16,000 crores, 17,000 crores, 20,000 crores, and the way they are raising funds. He is handling, in fact, this asset monetization in NHAI. So you won't find a better person than Mr. Khurana throughout India to talk about those methods which are used by NHAI. So I request Mr. Khurana to kindly enlighten us, and just explain also what kind of processes are used by them, what kind of technology is used by them, and maybe if it is not confidential, what kind of products they are in line, in fact, other than what they are doing at present. Mr. Khurana.
Thanks, Professor. Actually, just like in capital markets, a port process also exists in the Government of India for this innovative modes of financing. So, with the limited resources with the government, we have to look for some new sources. The asset monetization, basically it's a asset recycling we are doing in NHAI, and it's the brownfield projects, particularly the completed stretches, have a potential tolling or user fees collection. So we go for monetize those stretches, and whatever the proceed we utilize these proceeds for the development of new projects. So it's a recycling of assets, and government has allocated a very limited allocation to the NHAI, and you can say up to last year we have raised so many funds through bonds and bank loans, but this current fiscal government has not allowed us to raise the borrowings. Actually, we have already raised 3.5 lakh crores so far, and the budget they have provided to us are now sufficient to manage our activities. So I come to again this asset monetization. Without giving this detail of The national highways are around 1.32 lakh kilometer out of 60 lakh kilometers of the overall length of the roads in the India. And this asset monetization, as I said earlier, we using this opportunity to monetize the existing completed assets and utilize for the new development of the stretches. We have adopted 3 modes in this regard: toll, operate, transfer, TOT first. In this, we assign the roads to the bidder, highest bidder, for collecting the tolls for a particular period, and the responsibility of O&M, operation and maintenance, rests with that bidder. And what proceed we have received, we are utilizing, as I have showed earlier, for the development of the roads and particularly maintenance of the roads. So we are unlocking the unutilized assets, you can say, and for investing them to particular. In toll operate transfer, we have so far monetized 21 stretches and raised around 23 crores of rupees. Second mode is InvIT. In InvIT, it's akin to mutual fund. It's got opportunity to the small investors also to participate. So far we have placed only the private InvITs, not go for this public placement. But very soon we are going to go for this public placement, and in this InvIT we have sponsored one InvIT and monetized around 8 stretches and realized around 10,000 crore. Third, the offshoot balance sheet arrangement we have done through one SPV, Delhi Mumbai Expressway. In that SPV we raised around 27,000 crore. It's a arrangement in such a way we assign the road to the company SPV, special purpose vehicle, and in return that SPV entered into NHI for implementation agreement, and implementation and other things we are taking care of. So these are the brief of this asset monetization. And
Thank you so much. It's a very innovative way. This SPV is a company which is formed for a special purpose. It's a company which is a special purpose vehicle. Doesn't mean that there would be a car. It's a company which is formed, and this company is meant in fact for a specific purpose. So once the purpose is achieved, then it may continue or it may not continue its existence. So now I'm keeping an eye on watch also. So now we are coming, I would like in fact to our esteemed panelists to talk about the budget implications. What do they expect in the budget? Because from capital market point of view, what are their expectations? Let's see to what extent they are met by the government. But what do they expect in fact the budget to provide, to incentivize or to provide incentive to the capital markets? We are going to have a budget very soon. So what kind of expectations are there by the professionals from the budget to improve the capital market, to improve efficiency of the capital market, to improve liquidity of the capital market, to expand the scope of capital market? There can be many issues probably which can be touched by the budget. So let's take their opinions. So I would like to start with Mr. Pradeep. What expectations he has from the budget to improve the functioning of the capital market?
Yeah, so I think this year the budget for the government is going to be very challenging because the government is running a very high deficit, both on the current account and fiscal, because post-COVID what has happened is that the government has to spend a lot of money on social schemes. The other challenge is that this is, we're very near to the elections, right? So next year would be the general elections, and typically in an election year the government likes to keep up the social spending, right? Now, considering both these things, I think this is an year where the government would continue keep on investing on infrastructure, because infrastructure for this government in the last 2 terms has been one of the top priorities, whether it is highways, ports, airports, roads in general. We've seen a huge expenditure and a huge change, but the government will have to kind of walk a tightrope on how does it manages its finances. From a market's point of view, so I mean, I've been in the industry for about 20 years and I've seen, say, 20 budgets. From a market's point of view, it's actually a non-event. It is not a very important thing. I mean, budgets come and go, but markets do what they do. There is sometimes a short-term impact or a short-term reaction to something drastic if it happens in the budget. But generally budget is not, so much of a event, because budget is generally the government presenting its finances to the country, right? And also if you see most of the reforms that happen or have happened in India, they have not necessarily come in the budget, right? So I think reforms and new policies and making things better generally is a continuous process and not restricted to budget. The one thing which the government has been thinking for a very long time is that making taxation across various products similar. So today, if you see, equities are taxed in a different way, real estate taxation is different, debt is different, right? So what the government has been thinking is to kind of rationalize taxation across all three. There have always been rumors every time when the budget is around that the government might increase the long-term capital gain tax, right? And this has been happening for many years. They have kind of, not done it so far. But, if it happens, shouldn't be a surprise, because as I was saying, that the government this year is in a challenging position as far as its own finances goes. And when it comes to social spending, being an election year, the government will keep on spending.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Abhishek. Your take on this?
So I think on budget per se, my expectations or what I'm looking for is two things on the startup side and one on large infra projects. I think on startups there has been a demand from the community to relook at how ESOPs are taxed. If you go ahead and join a startups, most likely you will be getting ESOPs, which are stock options. Those are not stocks to start with. And when you convert them into stocks by exercising your right, you are taxed, irrespective of whether you are selling it or not. So it's still an unlisted company, you are just converting your option into a stock. You can't sell it, but you're taxed there at 30% slab or whatever it is. Which is a big drain on both startups, because they have to provide for TDS and also for employees. In many cases, salaries at startups are disproportionately low than the stock options they have. So a couple of months of salaries just go in paying for taxes, even though you're not realized the gain. So that's something which everybody is looking for, that you tax at the sales point of time, not when you exercise the option. Second, I think there has been a lot of chatter around reduction of MAT for startups. So MAT, as you would be knowing, it's 15%. Can you bring that lower, because many startups are now looking at profitability. So the more you do a work around this, it will encourage the community, it will encourage people to join startups, it will bring capital to the more capital to the startups community. One, I think my 2 cents on infra projects, sir mentioned about InvITs. I think if more incentivization can be done for retail investors to participate here, that will provide a lot of capital for large infra projects. Broadly, I think I would.
Thank you so much. Mr. Vikas?
I think having spent many years in MSME space, I'm sure we've all heard of SME IPO exchange, where typically SMEs come and raise, fund. I think some kind of mandatory allocation from large funds, maybe from LIC or PF funds, can be really allocated mandatorily, like we have priority sector lending norms for MSME, where banks are mandated to lend portion of their overall lending to MSME. I think similar the investments should also be promoted, right? Because the more depth you get in that area where people are still not aware, I'm sure many of us not have invested ever in SME IPO, because why, we don't know. We've not heard of them. There is the merchant banker is not really one of the best merchant banker, and there's something happening beyond the door. So I think if there can be mandatory allocation from the large funds, and maybe government can encourage that if you invest your money in these assets, in these exchanges, on IPOs of these exchanges, and you promote SME by giving them access to capital. Because right now, when I speak to SME, they say, I don't even feel comfortable anybody will come and subscribe to my IPO on SME exchange, right? So that can be one mandate. Second is encourage the use of tech. We've heard so much of Make in India, the PLI schemes which government promote कि भाई आप ये factory लगाओ तो हम आपको इतना tax rebate दे देंगे, we'll give you this much of investment back in form of incentives. I think somewhere the technology specifically used in a lot of these corporates, and especially more to do with the new age technologies like AI, machine learning, and it's being used. Like my dear friend said, that it's there. It is being used everywhere. You won't even realize. It could be as simple language as the Alexa of the world, which you feel it's an AI, right? But those people innovated. The innovation here is very less. And blockchain is something which is very close to my heart, so I always say that government should not just talk, they should promote it, and I think give incentives to those who adopt it, make processes, make their business much more efficient, and increase in transparency, right? मैं आज अगर technology, GST क्या है? GST is a technology, right? It's a way how you manage your taxations. There's a portal, you're uploading your invoice, you have to file taxes. It's a technology behind the tax reforms. It brought efficiency, right? Why can't I use technology to brought efficiency in my process, in my communication, in my automating a lot of activities which I do at R? And I think somewhere budget should promote these activities as well. This is my limited point.
Thank you. Mr. Singh, since you are with Oracle, any expectations that you have from the budget from IT companies' point of view or IT point of view?
I'll give you my personal point of view. So yeah, these views are my personal. So I personally believe that as far as India is concerned, we are at that point of inflection as a country where we can leapfrog into the next stage of growth and then be on the rate of growth where China was some 15, 20 years back, double-digit growth for a continuous period of 10 years plus. But it won't happen just like that. It won't happen by tinkering here and tinkering there. So 3 suggestions. Make rupee convertible. Fully convertible, back and forth. And that has a lot of implications. 2, bring about parity between corporate and individual rates of taxation. It kind of existed. It's been diluted over the last few years, leading to a flight of influential people who can contribute positively to the growth of country. The number of people who are moving out of this tax regime every year is not funny anymore. And I do have the good fortune of knowing few of them who are simply moving out of this tax regime because of the differential rates of taxation that you see globally. Third is, and again I'll say it in 3 words, simplified tax, please. Doesn't have to be drop this sub rule and make that sub rule and make that taxation. Please simplify. Just look at the number of tax litigations and the number of years for which there are cases pending with tax tribunals. I'm sure my friends deal with startups. They have still not gotten into that stage where they will have to deal with tax authorities. Some of them will continue to deal with tax implications of what they are doing for decades to come. So, those 3 suggestions, and I think we are ready to leapfrog. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Since we are running short of time, 2 very quick questions. 2 questions. Just 2 questions only. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question was, as India introduced digital rupee last year, so what implication, what impact can the digital rupee can have on the Indian economy, and what can be its benefits with, as we see at the capital markets point of view?
Who would like to answer? Yeah, sure, please.
So I think digital rupee is still under evolution. So the guidelines, it's a pilot exercise which has been started.
Yes.
Especially both on the retail and the corporate side. The simplified way to understand digital rupees, it's a wallet. It's not like your UPI. Digital transactions can also be done on UPI, but those transactions flows from A bank to B bank. In digital rupee, it flows from A wallet to B wallet. So in a way, what a regulator is trying to do is eliminate cash. So there has been seen that people don't deposit cash for for scrutiny purposes, and hence the introduction of wallet. So I think when you talk about implications, the implications is it could eliminate or reduce cash to a large extent without exposing individuals to scrutiny. But I think they're still figuring out how to evolve this product, and of course there's a lot of innovation which will happen over this going ahead. But I think the purpose is to reduce cash in the economy.
Thank you.
Just to add, you can reduce cash how, like you want to buy digital rupee, you go to a bank.
Yes.
I'm thinking aloud. This would ideally be the right way. You give them cash, you take digital rupee in your wallet. Now you and I can have money transition between us through my wallet to your wallet, like a crypto.
There is no
You have
between any.
You have a wallet, crypto में wallet move करता currency, same rupee. So that means you're sucking out the hard currency of the, because ultimately you'll buy it from hard currency, you will go to a bank, get the money and taking out the digital rupee. Simple.
One more question from this side. Somebody raised hand from this side. Yeah, please.
Hello sir.
So what is the role of capital market in the growth of new startup? And also according to Economics Times, 71% of stockbrokers shift to IT and tech industry. So what is your opinion about this?
I didn't understand the second part.
Actually 75% of brokers shift to IT and tech related field.
Brokers shift to IT and
Yes sir. IT company.
recommendations.
Yes.
So I think the first part, capital markets play a very important role, especially in mid to late stage startups. Early stage startups, I don't know how much you guys follow, but call it seed stage, Series A, Series B. Majority of capital raise happens offline. It doesn't happen on the public markets, it happens on private markets. But there is great degree of opportunity in helping these startups raise debt. Not equity but debt, even on the early stage via capital markets. So I think early stage debt and late stage equity, last year SEBI made a lot of progressive changes in their guidelines for raising equity, and hence you saw 5-6 large companies, large startups coming and raising. So for example, holding period of existing investors were reduced from 3 years to 1 year. So, and now a lot of companies who were earlier planning IPO in Singapore or US, for example, PhonePe, now they have come back and registered in Bangalore. Now they are planning IPO in India. So now for late stage companies, the stage is set right to access capital markets. For early stage, there is still a lot of opportunities which can be explored to raise debt from capital markets. I think second part, it's just an evolution exercise. IT, telecom, all these industries are long been there. A lot of institutional funds flowing into these industries, hence the coverage is high. Stock coverage of these industries is high. Startups is a very small thing, right? There's 5 companies who have got listed, and hence, the interest in them will slowly increase as more companies come and list themselves.
So thank you so much. I think we are running short of time. Otherwise, we had a long list of issues to be talked about. So I would request, in fact, all of you to come sometimes. In future we would have another round of, this panel discussion on innovations and maybe on some challenges also. So thank you so much. for being a part of, this panel discussion. I propose a hearty vote of thanks on my own behalf, on behalf of finance faculty, on behalf of LBSM faculty, on behalf of our director sir, on behalf of chairman sir, and everyone else present here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. It was an enriching discussion indeed. Just a minute, sir. Thank you, panelists. It was an enriching discussion indeed. May I now request Ms. Shubhangi Gupta, President, Management Grid, to kindly felicitate our esteemed panelist, Mr. Vikas Arora, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. May I now request Ms. Simran Bhutani, Vice President, Management Grid, to kindly felicitate our esteemed panelist, Mr. Subhash Khurana, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. May I now request Mr. Sarvani Chabra, Vice President, Management Grid, to kindly felicitate our esteemed panelist, Mr. Kanwar S. Singh, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. Now, I would request Mr. Ashish Kashyap, Coordinator Nivesh, the Mutual Fund Club, to kindly felicitate our esteemed panelist, Mr. Abhishek Miglani, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. I would now request Ms. Ritika Bali, Coordinator Nivesh, the Mutual Fund Club, to kindly facilitate our esteemed panelist, Mr. Pradeep Bhasin, with a memento as a token of our gratitude. I would now like to invite the panelists for a group photo. I would like to invite Professor Gautam Negi, Co-Convener, Finance Summit 2023, to deliver the word of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. As we drop the curtains to the Finance Summit 2023, it is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. The day-long summit was subdivided into an inaugural session and two panel discussions focused on the issues, challenges, and innovations in the Indian capital markets. The summit deliberated on various issues ranging from inadequate disclosures, price manipulation, insider trading, and lack of transparency to investor grievance